Are we ready? Are we ready? Are we ready? Excellent, excellent. Well, welcome everyone. My name is TRACY GOMES. I'm a past president of the Park Cities Rotary Club, and I am so thrilled to be here with you all today and celebrating our Veterans Day program. Yeah, this country would not be here without veterans and those that answer the call and put in their time of service for our country. And we all know that we owe them a huge, huge debt of gratitude for their service above self. We've got a great program today. We're going to celebrate that. But let's just take a moment for all the veterans, and especially the veterans of our club, those that have joined the services that are here with us, and those that are no longer here with us. So just a quick moment. Thank you. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Richard Stanford to give our invocation and pledge and national anthem. Oh, you got a trifecta today, huh? Excellent.
Yes. And first, you know, we save our joys for Happy Bucks. So we'll be doing that in a minute. But do we have concerns, things that need to be shared? Yeah, Mark.
I appreciate everyone keeping my father-in-law in your prayers. Unfortunately, he passed away this past Sunday afternoon. So, and my mother-in-law is not taking it very well. So.
Okay. Any others?
I got one.
Yes, Trey.
My nephew Matthew is going through a little bit of a hard time, and he has some happy times that I'll talk about, but a little bit of a hard time with work, trying to keep his job. He's got a baby coming in, which I wasn't even a happy part for, but just a tough time losing his job with a new baby.
Yeah, always it happens at the worst time. It's his Matthew, his nephew. He's got a new baby, and we'll do joys on that. But he's lost his job just as he's getting a new child, and you know that's stressful. That's nasty. Any others? Okay, if you'd bow your heads, we'll pray. Father, we know you know Matthew and his problems. We're with him too, as we know you are. And console Mark's mother-in-law. That is maybe life's worst loss. And we know you'll be with her during these hard years following her husband's death. And we do pause again today, just as Tracy did. We ought to pause every day, Father, we understand. And remember those who not only made the full sacrifice, people like those 13 young people who died at the airport in Kabul serving their country. But all those who come back with PTSD and all the things that they deal with all their lives because of their service, all we can do is live in awe of people whose lives are spent in service. Father, we understand we live in a selfish age, and to see young people who give of themselves over and over again. We've been through 2 wars, Father, that have been multiple engagements over and over again. And we don't know how hard that is. And we give thanks for people like that who you have sent into our midst. And today we do remember all those veterans and all that they have given and are giving at this very time. We pray all of this in your name. Amen. Now, if you would face the flag and put your hand over your heart, you will join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now join in our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you, Richard. You're going to take a mic?
Okay.
We would now like to introduce our guests today, and we are happy to see that we do have a number of guests out there. We're going to start on my left, your right side of the room. Richard? Who do we have as a guest? Eric, you didn't bring anybody? What's going on? Okay. All right, let's make our way. To the right?
Thank you, Richard. Here I've got Leo Avila. He is a veteran and a contract accountant right now working with Hunt. So please welcome him and talk to him about working out or his time in the service. You'll get some great stories. Welcome, Leo.
Got Seth Allen with me. Seth is a former Rotarian from years ago when he lived in Kentucky. Now he's back in Texas. He's offices near me in Preston Center. He's the Texas president for Sunflower Bank. So,
Excellent.
All right, we're going to get over here.
Whoa. We got somebody. Oh, somebody slipped in.
Hi. I just brought a guest named Madeline. She's a disability lawyer in Dallas, and she came to join us today.
Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Now, one right here.
Oh, okay, well, let me get Scurry first, and then, and Bill has something.
Get it in your steps today. Is that it, Richard?
Yes, that's what I need it.
I'm very pleased to introduce my mother, Marietta Johnson, who's joining us today. She's a longtime Dallasite and a member of a lot of different philanthropic organizations, but she is a teaching veteran in the sense that she taught math for over 40 years and has been on staff even up to 45 years at St. Mark's School. And so that's her background, and I'm so glad. Her grandson, my son, is in the Navy overseas right now.
Okay, Bill. All right, Mr. Sleeper.
Uh-oh.
Well, he's not exactly a guest, but I think he deserves special recognition. He's a loyal past president of the club, dues payer, hard worker. Stand up, Jerry Washam.
Oh!
It is
A
my
Jerry
pleasure.
Washam sighting.
It is my pleasure to recognize that he has a head of hair that anybody, Bud Nafee and I, envy greatly. But I'd also like for you to know that I knew him in his 30s, and he was, well, yeah, Patsy back then from Hillcrest and so on. Jerry was mortified that he was turning prematurely gray. He even had a bottle of Grecian formula on his desk. It's finally time for him to be wonderfully. Thanks for showing up, Jerry.
Excellent. You want to introduce guests now?
Yes. Later.
Later? Okay. All right. Well, thank you all guests for coming, and former Rotarians and prospective Rotarians that are out there. Hope you all come back to the club and maybe even thinking about joining us. Glad to have you here today. All right. Patsy, you have our marketplace advertiser. Go, Patsy. Go, Patsy. Go, Patsy.
Yes, our marketplace advertiser today is Karen Ferris and her company. Let's see, let me make sure I get the full name in here. Roach, Howard, Smith, and Barton. And Karen could not be with us today, but she is with us in spirit. And her company, they are an Assurance Global partner. And they are an independent insurance broker providing business insurance and risk management solutions to companies of all sizes and personal insurance to individuals and families. They have specialty expertise in technology, manufacturing, public entities, healthcare, directors and officers' liability, and insuring high net worth individuals. One of the largest independently owned brokerage firms in Texas, RHSB is 70 years old, has offices in Dallas and Fort Worth, and over 65 employees and represents over 50 insurance companies. Their unique value proposition is that they are independently owned. They are also part of Assurex Global, the largest privately held brokerage network in the world, allowing them to provide insurance and risk management to over 5,000 clients throughout the world. Leroy Howard, who was a longtime member of our club, is one of the founding partners, and Karen Ferris served as CEO for many years. Today, she serves as chair of their foundation, which holds an annual event at Clyde Warren Park to raise money for some of their nonprofit clients. Their 2020 $10,000 contribution was part of the seed money for the RCPC Bon-Ton Clinic campaign. So let's all thank Karen Ferris for our marketplace advertiser.
Excellent. Thank you, Patsy. Yes, thank you, Karen, for your longtime support of our club here and all your service to the club. Next, we have Greg Pape, Rotary Foundation, and I guess a couple of special guests.
Thank you, Tracy. Past President Doug Gill and current District Major Donor Chair Doug Gill's going to share the podium with me. Come on up, Doug. Awesome. You know, I'm looking over the landscape here. Past President Carl, do you know the significance of November in Rotary?
Rotary Foundation Month.
Right on. You're good. We love you. Rotary Foundation Month. Four-way test. Anyway, all right. To date, we've collected $11,400 as of today, November 12th, among 37 contributors in the club. Good news, a good giving, generous spirit. And as of today, the club's total contributions to the Rotary International Foundation is $1,010,333. Thanks to all of you. And part of that consists of having in our club 124 Paul Harris Fellows, and we also have 13 major donors, 14 benefactors, and 7 bequest society. We're going to explain that later in the program. But we're pretty much tops among 61 Rotary clubs in the district in terms of what we've achieved here, expressing our contributions and our generosity to service above self. So there's several ways, actually 6 ways, we can generalize about how Rotary Foundation donates their resources worldwide, globally. 1, Rotary fights disease around the world. For decades, Rotary's been a leader in the battle against polio and has kept the pressure on as world cases plummet from 350,000 cases in '88 to around 29 cases currently. And predominantly, or I should say, it's restricted to Afghanistan and Pakistan as the only countries left that have the polio virus. Rotary teaches people to read. Our goal is to strengthen the capacity of communities to support basic education and literacy, reduce gender disparity in education, and increase adult literacy. We support education for all children and literacy for children and adults through mentoring, scholarships, teacher training, and access to learning opportunities. We also have Rotary Building Peace. Each year, armed conflict and persecution displace, injure, and kill millions of people. More than 90% of them are civilians and half are children. Rotary projects provide training that fosters understanding and provides communities with the skill to resolve conflicts. Rotary provides clean water and sanitation. The statistics are alarming, but worldwide, 1 person in every 10 does not have access to safe water. And 2.3 billion people lack access to adequate sanitation. One consequence, 900 children under age of 5 die every day from diarrheal diseases. Having clean water and sanitation is a human right. Rotary members integrate water, sanitation, and hygiene into education projects. Also, Rotary grows local economies. Nearly 800 million people live on less than $1.90 a day. Rotary is working to strengthen local entrepreneurs and community leaders. And last, we save mothers and children. An estimated 5.9 million children under the age of 5 die each year because of malnutrition, inadequate health, and poor sanitation. More than 800 women die every day from birth and pregnancy-related complications. Rotary is saving lives by supplying birthing kits, immunizations, neonatal care equipment, and medical training. I'll leave you with this thought, and I'm going to talk in different little lingo, but I think most of you will pick up on it. Everyone needs to be a sustaining member of the Rotary Foundation. A fellow Rotarian has a voluntary responsibility to become an EREY, working their way to become a PHF, and ultimately an MD. In addition, working on a very painless way of contributing to the Rotary Foundation as a B or a BS. Keep those abbreviations in mind, and we're going to elaborate on it in future meetings. And now our district major donor, Doug Gill.
Thank you, Greg. Good afternoon, Rotarians. For those of you I have not had the pleasure to know yet, I am Doug Gill. Been a Rotarian and a member of this club for over 25 years. So when I got started in the club in 3rd grade, I had a goal in mind. I wanted to do a lot of different jobs in the club, and I've served this club as past president, which is a difficult job, but now I have a fun job, a great job, and that is I'm the major donor chair for the district, as Greg pointed out, which means effectively that whenever a person reaches a new level of major donor status, level 1, 2, 3, etc., I go to that person's home club and I present them with one of these handsome diamond lapel pins. I give them a beautiful crystal for their desk or their bookshelf, and I make a speech. In short, I make a really big deal out of that accomplishment because it is truly important. 100 cents of every dollar you give to the foundation ultimately goes to educate children, provide clean water, eradicate polio. Greg just went through the list. I won't do it again. Very, very important. By show of hands, how many of you know roughly, plus or minus, how much is in your bank account? What about your 401k account? Probably pretty close. You know what's in there, right? How many of you know over your lifetime how much you've donated to charity? Show of hands. One person in the room knows how much they've donated to charity over their whole lifetime. Well, guess what? Rotary International Foundation knows to the penny exactly how much every person in this room has donated to that foundation. That information is available to you. You can go online and get it or see Greg or myself. We'll be happy to tell you what that number is. It is not that hard to hit major donor status. Who's John Powell? Is John in the room? Okay, John Powell. See this red badge? John Powell's new to this club, right? Okay. John, guess what? If you donate $90 a month, starting right now, 10 years from now, you can be standing up here getting recognized as a major donor. Or, in my case, 25 years, you could hit second-level major donor status for $90 a month. Super easy to do. So, I'm here to challenge you. The next time you log on to your bank or look at your 401k balance, I want you to ask yourself, what is my Rotary Foundation balance? Because I'm here to tell you, you'll get a lot more satisfaction out of what that balance is in Rotary Foundation than how much you have in your checking account. Because remember, every dollar you give to the foundation is helping people who really, really need it, a lot more than you need another $90 in your checking account. So, make me come back here to this club and stand up here and make a really big deal out of one of you soon. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Doug.
Well, thank you, Doug, and glad you made a big deal about that because it is a big deal in terms of what we give to the Rotary Foundation. And as Greg was saying, this club has given a lot, and we still have a lot more that we can do. All right, so we got a couple of quick announcements we need to go through. Can I get Valerie Pelham up here? Jill Jordan, is Joy here? Nope. Oh, Happy Bucks first? That's right. So what are our happy? So I said I had a happy for my nephew.
And while you're doing your happy for your nephew, I'm just happy that C.C. Colley is here. Lieutenant in the Blue from 1943 to 1945 at the surrender in Tokyo Bay in 1945. Twice district governor in this district. I'll put that, you bet.
And for my nephew, Matthew. Good. Anybody else got a happy?
Evan.
Just wanted to thank the club for honoring Veterans Day, and the biggest thing is going for, from my perspective, I served, is to pass down to your kids and grandkids how important it is to appreciate the military, because we don't want to happen what happened during Vietnam, where so many people came back and they weren't responsible. They didn't make any decisions on what would happen. They were just told what to do. So I know everyone who serves greatly appreciates just being told thank you. So just pass that down to your kids and grandkids. That's all I ask. Thank you.
Hey, I'm not a bad dresser. This shirt doesn't match the shirt I have under it because it's a Rotary shirt from the donating blood today. And the blood mobile is here outside the north entrance. And I had the joy of opening up the truck this morning.
And you can, they'll be there till 2, I think. Isn't that right? 2 o'clock, okay.
I'm going to pay my Happy Bucks forward this time. I know at some point in time in November, UT is going to win a football game.
Good, we got a football one. Good.
Yeah. This is for SMU's win this weekend. Also, happy bucks for my father being a captain in the Air Force and my uncle who was a commander.
Okay, fabulous.
Hi, y'all. So good to see old friends. I'm just delighted. I wanted to mention something to you. Several of us park in the parking garage over by Dillard's that runs across Central. And we really need to, in these days and times, need to be more careful, be more aware of who's around us and what's happening. Last week, I left the Rotary Club and I was walking to my car and I heard the sound of a car and it was driving very, very fast. It was just too fast for, you know, you have normal speeding in your parking garage. So I thought, oh my goodness, you know, they're just driving too fast. And I looked up and there was a white sedan coming down the parking lot. And I thought, oh my goodness, you know, they need to slow down. And it started coming towards me, and I wasn't anywhere near my car yet. And my heart stopped. I thought, oh my goodness. So I looked, and here it comes, faster and faster. And all of a sudden, it screeched to a halt right in front of me, right by the side of me. And I clutched onto my purse and hey, lady. Well, you won't believe who it was. Bill Sleeper and our friend Tom Swift. So on behalf, do y'all remember Wilbur Hawkins? Many of you will. Well, he used to take the mic and he would walk around the room nonchalantly and he'd say these little funny stories and we would just crack up laughing. And so in honor of him and my good friend Bill Sleeper and Tom Swift and myself, I'm donating 3 happy bucks.
Thank you, Elaine. Thank you. Okay, I think that's probably it. That's it. Yeah, right. Right. This one works. This one works.
30 seconds, just 30 seconds.
I just want to clarify one statement that was made there. 98% of that was accurate, but I was not speeding.
Jill, come on up. Well, thanks for that, Elaine. Great storytelling on those two. Valerie. Yeah, well, you both have to.
All right, in the interest of time, I'll go real quick. I'm doing the membership minute, so why did I join Rotary? I worked for the city of Dallas, and one of my job responsibilities was to go around to different organizations and make presentations about what the city was doing, and I often went to Rotary clubs. And I learned there that when I retired, I wanted to be a Rotarian. I couldn't do it while I was working for the city because I could not faithfully come to meetings, and I'm not a morning person. So I had to find a club that met at the lunch hours. I was invited to come to this club, and I joined this club. And why this club? Notice the pictures up on the board there. You see a little girl, and she's standing at 4006 University Boulevard. and that is the Park City's 4th of July parade. That is the house where my grandmother lived, and it was our tradition every 4th of July to go and watch the parade. And that little girl is my daughter, who is now 30 years old. So I joined Rotary, and the first thing that I had to do was work in the Rotary tent. And in the Rotary tent, you get to meet all sorts of people, and you get to help all sorts of people. And one of them wasn't a person, it was a duck. And that duck actually helped us because it picked up all the popcorn that we were dropping as we gave out the popcorn at the 4th of July celebration. So Rotary has meant a lot to me. I've been able to do volunteer work with friends, and that's why it was so important to me. Thank you.
John, you want to come up as well?
I'd like to introduce our newest member, John Powell, under the classification of insurance, and his sponsor is Happy Franklin, and he's not new to Rotary. He's been a Rotary member in several places. So welcome, John. Let's give him a big welcome.
Oh, am I supposed to say a word? Hello. That's it. I'm a man of many words, not today. Hello.
Well, welcome, John. Thank you. Good luck with that, getting that blue badge into a red badge. There are lots of folks here to help you out.
Feels like a lot of
red to blue.
commitments in here. Yeah.
There are, but they're good commitments. All right,
Thank
look
you.
forward to it. Couple quick announcements. Come on up, Cub. Second dues, if you bid half dues, splitting them up, they are due by November 30th. You can pay online or to PHILLIP BANKHEAD over there. Blood drive today we heard about until 2 o'clock outside. We have a PCRConnect coming up this Thursday, the 18th, over at Walkstar, which is on the southeast side of 75 and Walnut Hill. All right? Cub, take it away. Chairman of the day.
Thank you, Tracy. Did we have everyone stand that had been a Navy veteran, a veteran? If they would, I just want them to stand, please, where Admiral Eckelberger know who we're speaking to. I know we have some Navy people. We got a Naval Academy graduate there in the back, but I just want to personally thank all of you for your service, and I'm glad you're here today to hear the Admiral. Next, I would like to briefly introduce the head table, Admiral Eckelberger's wife, Kathleen, my wife now. Of course, we've acknowledged C.C. Colley and his beautiful wife, Sue, and Sleeper said enough about Washington, so I won't elaborate on that. I'm overjoyed that the Admiral can join us today. I think the bio is very complete. Very briefly, he's a graduate of Northwestern University, where he received his commission through the NROTC program. He got his master's degree from Harvard. He served as supply officer on an aircraft carrier. He served in Vietnam. He completed his career at the Aviation Supply Office in Philadelphia with about 25,000 employees and an annual budget of approximately $13 billion. And the last I would say is the smartest guy I ever worked for. So Admiral, if you'll join us here. He also has two guests that are joining us with Navy backgrounds, and he will introduce them.
Thanks to Admiral Amos. We've had a long history of working together. And I'd like to introduce Dr. Joe Buckman and his wife, Barbara. Joe is had 8 years of active duty as a Navy doctor during the 1950s. Joe and Barbara, glad you could come. And I also ought to is this one works? Okay. I also ought to say hello to my good friend, the head of our dining committee down there. So thank you very much for being here to listen. I want to talk to you today about three very related subjects. The first about service to the nation. Second is about the caliber of men and women on active duty in the Navy today. And the third, and most importantly, and something I care about immensely, is the current divisiveness in our nation that is so foreign to the ideals that I held so dear through my 3 decades of active duty. I believe intense divisiveness is a sign of weakness in the democratic process, and so do all the enemies who are using that social media process to contribute to our divisiveness. I think it's an issue of national defense. I saw that a lot of you are veterans. If this crowd was all 20 years old and 30 years old, there wouldn't be a lot of veterans. And I think that's a sign of big problem in our nation. At Edgemere, where I live, almost all the men and women are veterans, including, like CC, a whole group of World War II veterans and many World War II widows. In fact, recently I called a guy and said, I heard you served in the Navy. Yep, 43 to 46. Astounded. That's when my father was in the Navy. I think I find fascinating about veterans at Edgemere is the veterans revere their service experience. The draft was in effect when they were young, so they had to serve. If you would have asked them 60 years ago what they thought about having to take time out of their life and serve the nation, might not have been a pretty picture, but boy, is it a pretty picture today. To a man, they talk about maturing experience, eye-opening travel that showed them what other countries and other parts of the world live differently than they did. Obtaining personal discipline, learning the value of teamwork on the job. Those statements are about youthful ways to build a foundation that ends to success at the end of life. To boot, many of them attended college or professional schools on the GI Bill. I think when the nation turned from the draft to the all-volunteer force, it gave up an immense contributor to the strength of our nation and the culture that we have to live in. I'm going to come back to that later, but first I want to describe to you the wonderful volunteer force in our Navy. And I'm going to start that by taking you on a trip with me. This trip I really took, and I want to make you take it on a virtual basis. But I had a group of CEOs. At the time, I was chairman of the Southwest Power Pool, and we'd build $30 billion a year, so I knew a lot of big company CEOs. I took some of them, and what we did, and I want to take you on this trip, we're going to go right now. We're flying out of Naval Air Station North Island, and we're on a Navy jet, and we're going to land on the USS John Stennis at sea off the San Diego coast. We land, tailhook landing. We're jarred with this rapidity of the decrease in acceleration. The first thing we do is get out of the plane and go up about 5 levels and say hello to the commanding officer of the ship. And then we get down 11 and we speak to the Admiral, who's the carrier group commander. And those destroyers out there on either side are working with us, as well as the submarine we can't see, making sure we're safe from below. We return to the flight deck, and we stand very next to the revetments that come up to shield the jet blast of 15 F/A-18s as they take off. I mean, we're no further away than that table is from me. And then when that's happened and we've been wide-eyed, we go back to the back end of the fantail end of the ship, and that's where the arresting cables are for the planes that are about to land. And we stand right next to the arresting cables. If that's the arresting cable, I'm standing right here. and we're standing right next to the arresting cable, and these tailhook planes come in, 50 of them, and land right in front of us. That evening at the dinner, the executive officer, who's number 2 in command of the ship, says, I want you to know we have 5,000 people aboard, and the median age is 19. The next day, we are going around to various departments where petty officers describe what their job is and how the department functions. At the end of the day, well, before that, at lunchtime, we get down to the general mess and we eat with the crew. They serve 15,000 meals a day when that ship's at sea. Big deal. And then we get on an airplane and we fly back to North Island. We have shut off the catapult. What do you think, in your own mind, is the beauty that those CEOs saw in that trip? Well, I'll tell you what they thought. They thought anybody, any organization that can take 5,000 at median age 19 and make an organization hum with beauty like this organization hums. Fantastic. And I tell you, that's the all-volunteer force of the Navy. And whether you talked about the Navy or any one of the other services, they could tell you a similar story about how good the all-volunteer force is for them at this point. But let me talk to you about the difference between 60 years ago when I was on an ensign on a destroyer. I had a 50-man department on the destroyer, and half of them had been told by a judge in New York City, join the Navy or go to jail. Today, those kids can't join the Navy. To join the Navy today, you have to be, number one, you have to be in a position where you're a high school graduate, you have no police record, you have no drug record, you passed the Navy test, you're not a couch potato, and you're physically fit. 10% of American kids fit all those qualifications. Only 10%. So that's where we get these kids who are so superb. I think the sadness in that story is those guys on the destroyer who were told to go to jail or go to the Navy, there's no way to rescue them today the way the U.S. military did in those days. Big deal, I think. If you look today at the greatness of the kids who volunteer, this local recruiting office sends 150 guys and gals every month to Great Lakes from the North Texas and Oklahoma area. And the only trouble they have getting kids is the kids who are going to be trained to be in the nuclear propulsion world of the Navy. I mean, the way they get them is they go to the advanced science classes, the advanced math classes in the high school and find those that are not going to college. And then if you want to be a special forces type warrior, the SEALs, the underwater demolitionmen, the rescue swimmers, the deep sea divers, the infiltration boat drivers, these guys all have body builds that make us all jealous. They talk to the coaches, and they learn through the coaches who the kids are that are interested and capable, and they meet every quota. They meet this whole thing on our side. Let's talk about the officer side. I mean, it's absolutely astounding the quality of leadership that the Navy builds for the kids who come into the all-volunteer force. The Naval Academy picks 1 in 20 to actually enroll. That's like Stanford or Rice or the Ivy League. The NRTCs have 100 of the best colleges in the United States available to them. And the kids who are the midshipmen at the RTCs today all have a SAT score of 1,400. They come from the top 10% of their high school classes. in both the Naval Academy and the ROTC, they're looking for the whole man and the whole woman. They have to demonstrate leadership in school or sports. They have to contribute to their communities. And most importantly, they have to have aspirations that are a lot bigger than themselves. And so, put this together, a great enlisted force, a well-trained officer force. This all-volunteer force is spectacular for the military and for military leaders. We can all be very proud. And if you met and talked with these young men and women, I'm going to generalize here, they would tell you about patriotism, good work, learning valuable skills, and building a leadership capability. When they return to the civilian world, they will be the kind of parents, the kind of citizens we celebrate. But I want to talk instead of celebrating the all-volunteer force about what's bad about it. I think the conversion to the all-volunteer force has done a real disservice to our communities. Great for the military, wonderful for the military, but not, I think, what the communities need. When the veterans I talk to at Edgemere talk about learning discipline, leadership skills, and taking it home to their communities, seeing the world, making people understand the broadness of something beyond their own hometown, they built outlooks that a lot bigger than they learned at home. Instead, today, we have very few young men and young women with that advantage. And I think our nation lost a lot. Today, in my opinion, we're developing a military class, not the citizen soldiers that were envisioned by the founders of the nation. Large numbers of the new inductees come from families with military experience. Today, we have 115 million people in the nation who are of military age. 1.3 of them, 1%, serve in the military. It's beginning to look to me like the Hessians who fought as mercenaries for the Redcoats. With an emerging gendarme culture, too many of our fellow citizens think freedom is free. And the knowledge of military service becoming really dangerously sparse. I want to tell you 3 stories to make my point. First, many of you know, we have a 4-star retired admiral who lives in a neighborhood. He's a Rhodes Scholar, leader of the Blue Angels, served as the Vice Chief of Naval Operations, retired as the Commander of the Pacific Fleet. A few years ago, he agreed to host with me at the military ball a party at the Intercontinental Hotel where Ross Perot and Congressman Sam Johnson were speaking. So after he finished helping with me with the hosting, he headed for home. And he was waiting in his 4-star Navy uniform for his car when a well-dressed lady pulled up in her Cadillac, got out of the car, handed him her keys, not knowing that he wasn't the bellhop. Astounding story. Second, a story from my own background. When I left the Navy and applied for my first civilian job, it was with a $37 billion company. They had me go to Cleveland to meet a doctor of psychology and take a full day of testing. The first test was about intelligence. My phone is ringing, and I hope you can't hear it. It's Edgemere. They had me go to Cleveland to meet this doctor of psychology and take a full day of testing. The first test was about intelligence. You know what this learned doctor said to me after I finished the test? This is unbelievable. He said, "You are so smart. How could you have been in the U.S. Navy?" The third story, I had an interview with the CEO who founded the warehouse club that became the predecessor of Costco, called the Price Club in those days. He opened our conversation with this: "So you're one of those guys who always spend other people's money?" I want to tell you, these detractors are above average citizens. They should have an understanding of how this government works. They had no appreciation for the military. The more we build a gendarme class, the worse this problem's going to become. 30 years ago, I was still on active duty. The Navy said, go to Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and lead a parade. So away I went. And I was dressed in my dress white uniform, and for an hour, a congressman by the name of Konjorsky and I marched together down the street of Wilkes-Barre, leading the parade. And what we talked about was conscription. He was a very liberal guy. He was a great friend of Ted Kennedy's, and so you know what level of liberalness he had. We talked about conscription and what it brought about the community and versus the all-volunteer force. We talked about the negative aspects, as I've described them, of the all-volunteer force and how it affected democracy in our communities. Curiously enough, we totally agreed. At the bottom line conclusion was and is, from my point of view, how do aspiring American youth in schools today learn that JFK was right? Ask not what you can do for your nation, ask what you can do for your nation. Now, I want to pursue that dictum. The founders of our nation had many concerns about the future of democracy that they sought to establish. Imagine what they were thinking. The king used to make all the decisions. Now the voters are going to make the decision. How different, how problematic, how difficult. We know from their writings, and I've read a lot of it, that they had two major concerns on how to set up the citizenry to be effective in a democracy. The first was, how can we have people smart enough to vote? And secondly, how can we have people smart enough to serve on juries? Remember these guys were Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, Hamilton. They were all schooled on the writings of the Enlightenment. They didn't want another king. They wanted able democracy. They and their ancestors had come from other countries to seek freedom of religion and speech, fair legal processes, equality regardless of wealth. It was a truly novel idea at the time in the whole world. They wondered how the new forms of government could provide goodness for itself and protect itself in future years. They were immensely afraid of tyranny from a despot or from citizens without the necessary judgment to be good voters. They built the government with lots of checks and balances, and you know how that government works. They didn't believe in pure democracy. In fact, they were afraid of pure democracy. And so local elections were pure democracy. House of Representatives could be elected with pure democracy. But to countervail that power, they created a Senate which was only elected by representative democracy. The legislatures of each state selected the senator. That was a means to try to keep pure democracy from happening. And then the second thing they did, they created the Electoral College. And the Electoral College, which is really a way to make sure the voters don't choose faddish issues, it's instead to be in a position where the states collectively get their choice on how the government will be run by the next chief executive. This difference between full democracy and representative democracy, big deal. But not only did they do that, they really made sure that only what they considered people of intelligence, which meant you had to own property, could vote. So the rules were, in one state it was include women, and all the other states it was free men with property who could vote. Now look at what's happened over 250 years. We've extended that process of voting to everybody over 18. And we have, at the same time, have direct elections to the Senate. I think the founders would probably agree to that with one proviso, and that proviso is that the voters are well educated. Do you think we've met that test? I don't think so. And it bothers me a lot that that's the core of the problem I've got with the divisiveness in America. The answer the founders had was we would have strong public schools. And you may not think this is a new idea, but you know the truth is, if you go back and read the letters between Jefferson and Adams before the Constitution was even formed, you'll see an awful lot about how to make sure we have educated voters. When Jefferson was ambassador to France, he was writing in Washington about making sure that we have educated voters. It was a very, very strong thing. I'll give you an example of just how important it was. In 1885 and 1887, the Continental Congress was dealing with the Northwest Ordinances. Now, these are ordinances that describe how the land that had been ceded by Britain at the end of the Revolution could be populated. And what they set up was every community in those states, which would have been Ohio, Michigan, Illinois, Wisconsin, others, every community had to have a schoolhouse right in the middle of it. That was the law they passed. And the thing that I find most interesting, John Adams wrote the Constitution of Massachusetts, and I think it portrays something that's terribly important today, and I want to read it to you. It's a 1780 Constitution. Wisdom and knowledge, diffused generally among the body of the people, are necessary for the preservation of rights and liberties. I think that's a crucial statement. And then it goes on to say, it shall be the duty of the legislature and the magistrates in all future periods of the Commonwealth to cherish the public schools. In the last year, I've really come to wonder if some of our governmental leaders even had a civics course. It seemed to me in many cases taking advantage of the rights and liberties of others in order to advance personal or polemic power has become very acceptable. A CEO in my mentoring group said to me at lunch yesterday, "You and the men and women of your generation must be heartbroken about what's happening in our nation." Bullseye, I said. I'm immensely unhappy with the state of our democracy. Just last week I read in the internet a story about a political club in Wichita State University that was denied a right to be in the college community by the college senate. This Kansas Supreme Court turned that around. But the question I have is, why do those people in the college senate not understand the guarantee of free speech? I've watched in the news in the past year, I've been amazed at different definitions of freedom in America. What's the extent of my freedom to control my body, my actions, my thinking? I think the concept of personal freedoms were very well clarified by the founders in the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. They were broad and very good. But they then, and the Supreme Court and many times since then, has made it very evident there's a big red line. And that big red line is that freedom is yours to enjoy in the United States of America as long as it does not trump the freedoms of others. It's not freedom carte blanche. It's freedom with the ability of others to have freedom too. So why am I concerned with understanding civics and the strength of our government and about common decency in our society? You're concerned with devices in the country? I'm sure you are. I sure am. I think it's a huge problem. We've seen it before. If you go back to 1820 and read the congressional discussions for the next 40 years, up until Lincoln's election, strife, strife, strife. Canning's on the floor of the House of Representatives, and Davy Crockett saying, "You can all go to hell, I'm going to Texas." I think this divisiveness has to be fixed. We don't want a civil war to fix it. I think as our founders thought, public education has to turn the tide. Both voters and elected officials have to understand and cherish our government. We have to relearn the need to talk to each other. We have to appreciate the need for compromise. The majority of our states today do not require a year of civics in their public school curriculums. I had a year and a half myself. Some states teach about government and social issues, but present one side of important issues. How does that add to the analytical thinking we want high school graduates to have attained so they can become good voters and good members of juries? I think it doesn't. So I think analytical thinking is necessary to everyday life in the United States. If you think about your youth versus the youth of today, they're inundated by daily TV discussions, newspapers, social media. Where does editorializing begin and where does news stop? How much of what we are being pushed to think is driven by foreign governments working to make us more divided and weaker? The evidence is clear. How much of the government largesse is actually a clandestine way to buy an election? What is truth? How can Joe Citizen discern deception? We have to recognize liars. Joseph Goebbels in Nazi Germany taught the world, if you repeat a lie often enough and with authority, including making up the facts, you can get the populace to believe. This is dangerous stuff. It's being used today by autocrats among our NATO allies in Poland, Hungary, Turkey, and Spain. And we in this nation are vulnerable too. Please remember, in 1933, a democratically elected demagogue in Germany turned Field Marshal Hindenburg's German Republic into a cruel and self-serving dictatorship in just 6 months. We need new strength, not just military strength, but in the civil society and in our public schools to counteract these inherent threats to democracy. To use Lincoln's word, house divided cannot long stand. Education is the key to sorting out that truth, to not being convinced by glib demagoguery. There are other things that are bothering the democracy other than just plain education. And I think it's important that we understand things like gerrymandering, which was introduced in Massachusetts by Governor Gerry in the 1800s. Now it's a national tragedy, with representatives choosing their voters instead of the voters choosing their representatives. We need to have social media with a positive good. We need to split up the ownership of newspapers, broadcast, electronic media, so the owners cannot become propaganda bossers. We need to control the money that buys elections, and we need to revise the thinking about the citizen soldier. All this is tough stuff. I hope on this Veterans Day address that I've given you some ideas about things we need to address to heal the ills in our nation. Can you set aside your personal druthers and help drive that needed change? I don't know whether I want to tell you my blood runs red, white, and blue or blue and gold, but it's one of the two. And, you know, in the U.S. Navy, with my 30 years of active duty, we always had the opinion that our political opinions didn't matter at all. We served the Constitution. Whomever the people had elected to become our leaders, we honored. And the people put them in power from our point of view, and the people are the ultimate source of power. So we learned never to be polemic. As a result, I find driving change a lot easier than those embedded with stakes in the game. Regardless, I think all of us need to be strong patriots. The needs of the nation have to have priority over the needs of partisans and polemics. I hope you and I can both provide that kind of leadership. Now I want to close with a toast, and this story has a toast to it. Hope you have a little bit of something left to drink. This story is about 1964 when I was on the Secretary of the Navy's small staff of 10 officers. I was, in Navy terms, George, which means the most junior guy in the room. Being on the staff of the Secretary got me to a lot of shindigs, however. The night I was remembering the Secretary of the Navy was hosting Senator Scoop Jackson from Washington State, then the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee. We were in the home of Commodore Stephen Decatur on Lafayette Square in front of the White House. Maybe some of you have been there. I'll tell you a funny story about the house. When you come out the front door, there are two lamp posts there. And I'll be damned if I could find the light switch. Candles. At any rate, this night, the Secretary was hosting Scoop Jackson, and we were in Decatur's home. And if you don't know about Decatur, he won the battles with the Barbary pirates in the Jefferson administration. The words in the Marine hymn, "The Shores of Tripoli," are about what came out of Decatur's lead warfare. The senator that night chose to use a quote from Decatur while we were there in his house. And with some editing, here's the quote: "My country, may she always be right, but right or wrong, my country." Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and patriotically toast with me to our country, the United States of America. The end.
Admiral, thank you very much for that speech and for that reflection. As you said, maybe we all kind of reflect on that and see what we can do as individual citizens, as this club, to help strengthen our country here. John Powell, if you'd come up to give our four-way test. Before we have the test, I've got a little note from a little birdie that we got a birthday today. From our chair of the meeting, Cub Amos' birthday today. This club remembers how to sing, right? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Cub. Happy birthday to you. And many more. All right, now for our four-way test. John.
All right, feel like we're in a wrap here, so please stand and join me. The four-way test is an ethical guide for Rotarians to use for their personal and professional relationships. The test has been translated into more than 100 languages, and Rotarians recite it at club meetings. Please recite with me. Of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Oh, I thank you. You get the honors. There. That first one was like a mulligan.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Thanks again, everybody. Please come back next week when we'll have Leonor Marquez on Barrios Unidos. Have a great weekend.
Next to Mexico much?
Well, we came back in October.
Yeah.
We'll be here through the end of the year.
Yeah.
Then we'll go back.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that place. Yeah.